G-Man Boxing. Do you know what I mean? Every single live he donates. I see him on other lives donating. He's got the bag on it.
Alright people, review of the week time. So boy, what a week it was last week. It seems there was boxing news every other day. It was mainly centered around Fury Usyk. We'll talk about that a little bit in this video, but there was fights on over the weekend, so as always, whenever there's fights on, we talk about them first. We're going to talk about the fight that I was most looking forward to the weekend. Didn't have a chance to do a review of it, but I did watch it this morning, which was David Benavidez versus Blant. Now, the fight went, I want to say, almost exactly as I imagined it would. The only thing is, I thought David Benavidez would stop Blant late. Now, he nearly did. Had him hurt in the 8th and in the 11th. However, it went to points, and David Benavidez won a unanimous decision. There's one scorecard there, the 170-111 scorecard. I mean, what fight was he watching? Blant, make a case he won the first 4 rounds comfortably. Because he was, as I expected him to early on, he was outboxing Dave Benavidez. He was just hitting him with shots here and there. He was actually getting his left hook work, and I think it was the 3rd or 4th round. He threw a good left hook to the body and then followed up with a left hook to the head, which is similar to how he stopped Anthony Durrell last time around. Now, I kind of thought Blant would need to really try and put Dave Benavidez in his place early, or at least make him think very early, because Benavidez, he can be a slow starter. He does tend to come on in the mid to late rounds, but he's never really been in there with someone who could put him in his box and maybe just kind of make him think a bit about what's coming back. The shots Blant hit him with didn't really seem to have a massive effect. The only shot that really had an effect on Benavidez was, I think, in the 8th round, 7th or 8th round, which was a low blow, and it was a bad low blow. I mean, Kenny Bayless was refereeing this fight, and Kenny Bayless is a very... For a while, he used to only really referee the very, very big fights. So he used to referee a lot of Floyd's fights. He actually refereed the Fury Wilder 2 fight, and I believe Wilder was accusing him of being in on the conspiracy, as of course Deontay Wilder would do, because it's Wilder. But I thought he was especially poor in this fight. It seemed like any times the boxers even got close, he was breaking them. He was constantly having words, calling time. And actually, it was the 8th round where Blant was hurt. He was hurt early on in that round, and as the round went on, Dave Benavidez really put a beating on him. And there was a clash of heads. Cut was over the bridge of Plant's eye, or sorry, his nose. And in the middle of the round, towards the back end of the round, when Plant's getting hurt, he stops, intervenes, and gets a doctor to check on Plant, which to me was a bit of a red flag, because look, it's very often you have that where, you know, a fighter gets a cut, bridge of the nose, over the eye, but normally you'd wait until the end of the round when they're in the corner before you get a doctor in, or maybe the start of the round, you know, maybe as a precaution check. Very seldom you do it in the middle of the round. So I kind of felt that was a bit strange. Kenny Bayless' performance in the fight was not flattering. He definitely not one of his better performances. But the fight, as I said, went exactly how I thought it would. Kind of after the 5th round, Benavidez started going through the gears a bit more. And pretty much from round 8 on, Benavidez was in control. And he did everything I thought he would do, except for stop Plant. Except that. I thought he would. I thought he'd get to him late, like Canelo did, maybe in rounds 11, rounds 12. But no, Plant stuck it out, stayed till the end, and lost a unanimous decision. This was for the WBC interim super middleweight world title, so now Benavidez is now mandatory for Canelo Alvarez, and oh boy, oh lads, that is a fight I want to see. Alvarez versus Benavidez, take my money. If it's on pay-per-view, take my money. I want to see that fight. That's a fight that I want to see made next, because that fight right there, oh boy. Now, Chris Colbert versus Jose Venezuela. Now, I didn't see this fight, but I did hear that this was a horrendous robbery, that Chris Colbert was lucky to even see the final bell, much less win the fight. So that's definitely going to be one I'm going to have to go back and watch. And apparently Chris Colbert was very, how would I describe it? Did he give the guy the finger or something after the fight? As if this, well, you know what that means. So yeah, I'll have to go back and have a look at that. But I was hearing people saying it was bad decision. So that was that. I didn't really get a chance to see a lot of the fights on that card. I got a chance to see, because I was out with my friend last night for a bit, so I didn't really get a chance to see many of the fights. I only really kind of looked at the ones I sort of needed to. But I did have a chance to see some of the fights that were on the Telford card. So Andrew Kane versus Inut Baluta. Now, he's a very tricky operator. He won a split decision over Andrew Kane. Now, apparently Andrew Kane came out in the first round swinging, had Baluta down twice, but obviously Baluta was able to rally and get a split decision. I can't find a copy of that. Now, actually, I wouldn't mind, but base shout out to him. He actually just recently hit 1,000 subscribers, so congratulations to you, my man. He sent me a good link where I can watch that's actually where I watched Benavidez versus Blant, so I actually must use that later and see if I can find this fight, because I heard this was Fight of the Year contender. So definitely going to be having a look at that, 100%. Raven Chapman got a UD over Linda Laura Lecha. Okay, strange, interesting one. But Raven Chapman getting a UD, didn't put a foot wrong, won every single round, had Lecha down to the 10th round. Surely it's got to be a world title fight next to featherweight. Now, at featherweight, obviously, Samantha Serrano's undisputed. So, could we see that? Will she maybe fight for a vacant title? Who knows? On top of the bit, actually, Moses Atuma fought a guy called Ramon Ibarra. Now, he looked shocking on the scales. Like, he looked just like, where the hell did they get this guy from? Down in the first round stoppage, back-to-back first round stoppages for Moses Atuma. He looked fairly aggrieved after this fight, given the level of the opponent, and I can't blame him, truth be told. Frank Warren should be doing better. At the end of the day, he's talking about wanting to make Moses Atuma beat Mike Tyson's record, and he's back out again on the Zhilei Zhang Joe Joyce card, which is good. He's getting now active. That's 3 fights in 3 months, fair enough. But against this level of opposition, I mean, like, he's a talented fighter, is Atuma. Anyone can see that. So he needs to be fighting better opposition than this. I know when you're starting out, you don't want to be... Well, I suppose he wants to be rushed. So I don't see what the problem is of putting him in there with some actual journeyman who might have a bit of ambition, or at the very least are durable, because this guy was a joke. The last guy was a joke as well. You know, these are the kind of guys you'd pluck for a guy with next to no amateur fights. And I know Atuma didn't have an extensive amateur background, truth be told. I was surprised when he told me he only had 24 fights. But nevertheless, he's still operating at a decent level as an amateur, showed a lot of potential. Someone fresh out of the amateurs who only had maybe a handful of fights at a low level, yeah, fine, get him learning in the pros against guys like this. But this guy was just garbage. Like, I just don't understand why. And I thought Frank Warren would know better than that, to put someone like Atuma in with someone of that low stature. No disrespect to the guy, but hey, Nathan Heaney won against Jack Flatley. I did see this fight. Nathan Heaney, workmanlike performance, did what he needed to do over 10 rounds. I'm still not massively impressed with Nathan Heaney, I have to say. I've not really seen anything other than, you know, his entrance really that kind of is a bit impressive or noteworthy. So that was that. Now, last but not least, we move on to the boxer show. So Michael Gomez Jr., Levi Gills, split decision win for Gomez Jr. That was a pretty good fight. Fraser Clark in there against Bogdan Dinu. Bogdan Dinu, late replacement for Riddell Brooker. And it's kind of much more to say. Fraser Clark was 271 in this fight. Ridiculous weight for Fraser Clark to be weighing in at. You know, I've not really been massively impressed with Fraser Clark. 271 pounds, that's just... Because he's not exactly the body beautiful type the best of times, so to be weighing that much... Damn. We will see. I mean, Dinu, at this stage in his career, you know, he's lost his last 3 to Kevin Lorena Dubois. He's never been one for showing a lot of heart. Amazingly, and again, this shows how farcical the WBA are with their rankings. When he lost to Kubrat Pulev, he fought a journeyman in 2019, and he fought another journeyman in 2020, and that gave him, wait for it, a number 2 ranking with the WBA. Unbelievable. So Bogdan Dinu is not a top 5 heavyweight, shouldn't be, I should say. He's not a top 10 heavyweight, 15, 20, 30 heavyweight. So that win, on paper, yeah, you beat the guy with only 4 losses. You lost to good heavyweights like Dubois. Well, he lost to Big Farmer Miller, actually. That was his first loss. and he lost to Pulev, to name a few. But Bogdanini was no great shakes. He really is, in terms of heart, he's right up there with Malik Scott for lack of their heart. Obviously, the main event was Lawrence Okolie versus David Light. I guess the less said about this fight, the better. Lawrence Okolie did not look good in there, and it was another dull, boring, holding hugfest from Lawrence Okolie. It didn't look full in the Manchester Arena, to say the least, and you know, this is kind of more why I'm so confused as to why Eddie Hearn was so insistent of Lawrence Okolie having the one extra fight, the one fight that was left on his deal, because at the end of the day, you know, surely, definitely, Ben Shalom and Boxer took a massive L on that show, and Lawrence Okolie, this is no disrespect to him, but he said words to the effect, maybe it was Eddie Hearn who said that Sky were looking to make Okolie the face of boxing, the face of Sky boxing. At the end of the day, Okolie has neither the personality nor the style to do that. People in boxing, if you're not very charismatic, you know, if you just, you know, Tyson Fury is a very charismatic character. His style at times can be very dull to watch, but the charisma can draw people in. But Okolie, his style can be awful, horrendous, like really paint dry style at times. And he has about as much charisma as a Hoover going, literally. You know, he's not a very charismatic individual. I remember Sky at the start when he was with Matchroom and they had him on a couple of AJ undercards. They were trying to make him like that and it just didn't work. It was cringe, absolutely cringe. That's the way he's fighting. His last two fights, he's gone backwards in many ways since winning that world title, because when he was with McGuigan, and again, this is his first fight with Sugar Hill, so obviously not everyone is a Tyson Fury. They can't just pick it up like that. But Okolie, under McGuigan, he was throwing his right hand a lot straighter. He was getting more snap in his shots. And up until he fought Cieslak in the fight prior to this, he was looking good. You know, I was very impressed with what I was seeing. He's a good judge of distance, looking very good. And then against Cieslak, he started out okay. Cieslak got a bit close, and then it was just hugfest for the rest of the way. And again, in this fight, it was hugfest the rest of the way. Okolie got docked a point in the 11th round, which was laughable because they should have docked him a point much earlier. Should have had several points docked for all the holding. And in the 11th round of a 12-round fight, you decide, now I'll be a referee. Now I'll show what I can do. It's just laughable at this stage, you know. I was listening to Dell's video on this, and he said that if you're another cruiserweight, you are not going to want to fight Lawrence Okolie in the UK. And I agree, because he's let get away with way too incessant holding in the UK. We've seen it against Chamberlain, we've seen it against Askin, we've seen it against Cieslak, now we've seen it against David Light. And David Light is not a good nor dangerous cruiserweight. No disrespect to him, but he's not. He's not someone who you're going to think and go, look and go, oh, he's going to be a bit of a dark horse, oh, he's in the Who Needs You club. He's not like that. So I don't understand what it is with Okolie. Now, I know Okolie in his amateur career, he was knocked out in a round against Savon, and he was dropped against Savon several times in Rio 2016. So you would imagine that in terms of the chin department, just basing it off the amateurs, you know, and bear in mind, he wasn't a teenager, you know, in Rio 2016. He would have been in his early-ish to mid-20s, so, you know, I'm pretty sure his chin's not going to improve much since then. So maybe he has memories of that. Maybe he still knows that in the amateurs he got his chin checked a couple of times and it's like, okay, in the amateurs I wouldn't be able to get away with these tactics and it's only 3 rounds. In the pros I can. I'm bigger than these guys. I can get away with it. Just maybe he's got no confidence in his chin, because he's almost fighting like a Klitschko was. You know, he's almost Klitschko without the jab. Although Klitschko was a much better fighter in every aspect, which is why it was frustrating for Klitschko to do it. But it's almost like he knows, even though he's not been knocked down as a pro or dropped yet, it's almost like he knows there's fragility there. And when he senses it from the opponent that they could expose that fragility, he's just like, no, I'm going to nullify them. I'm just going to shut them down. I'm not going to let them get any offense off. I'm just going to hold them, use my strength, and push them back. Now, that's worked fine at cruiserweight, and it will no doubt work fine at cruiserweight if he's allowed to continue it against guys like Jay Opataya, against Gullamari and the people like that. You know, Badu Jack, I mean, he wouldn't need to do it. Badu Jack, no disrespect to Badu Jack, he's a tremendous. I like Badu Jack a lot, tremendous, one of my favourite fighters. But against Makabu, he looked his age. But if he moves up to heavyweight, well, he is in for a rude awakening, because the tactics he uses against these cruiserweights, who he's normally always bigger than, it's not going to work against a 6'6", 250, 255 pound heavyweight. Could you imagine him going in there, we'll say against Joe Joyce, and trying, okay, and Joe Joyce hits hard, we know that. Him thinking, okay, I don't want to let this guy get too much offense off, I'm going to try and hold him. Joe Joyce would ragdoll Lawrence Okolie. I mean, it would literally be a simple case of boy against man. That's what it would be. It would be boy against man in there. He would get ragdolled by Joe Joyce. So I think that Okolie, a cruiserweight, you know, if he's allowed to get away with the incessant holding, well, he's just going to beat these guys. But a heavyweight, even if he is allowed to get away with the holding, he won't be able to do it as frequently, because these guys, you know, these big guys, the top guys, are just going to outman him. Simple as. That's my thoughts on the whole situation. In terms of the Okolie boxer thing, I mean, I really don't know how that's going to go. They may as well just get the Riakporhe fight if they want to make some money, because I think him against Riakporhe could do some good numbers, might do some good sales as well, ticket sales. I think they're both from London, aren't they? I think Riakporhe is from... Where's Riakporhe from? But I know Okolie, I think, is from Crystal Palace, I think. Anyway, maybe it's the other way around. But it's a London derby, there you go. Sorry about the bike going up the road, I hope that didn't pick up on that. But that's the only fight I think really at this stage you could do for Lawrence Okolie that would do anything. And again, it makes the whole situation, why Eddie Hearn was so insistent on keeping Lawrence Okolie for that one fight, all the more bizarre. Because I really don't understand it. Because, like, I look, no disrespect, you could prove me wrong, but I can't see Okolie making Sky the return that maybe they want. And I'm sure Eddie Hearn would have known that. So why he was so insistent on keeping him is a bit of a head scratcher for me personally. Again, Okolie could turn out to prove me completely wrong. I could be left with egg on my face, who knows. Now, in terms of some of the boxing news, which we'll get into now, Daniel Dubois has declared he is 100% wants to fight Oleksandr Usyk next, and does intend to get his mandatory, which he is mandatory with the WBO, or WBA I should say. He intends to invoke that in the coming months. So obviously this is basically coming from the fact that Tyson Fury against Oleksandr Usyk, it broke down last week. And as I've said before, I've done this to death on this channel. It's not very good numbers, but I've done it to death. Unless obviously some more news comes out, in which case I'm probably going to not do many videos on it moving forward. Unless, of course, we get more movement, maybe something changes, we get this, that, who knows. Touch wood, we get the fight. But last week it broke down. Oleksandr Usyk walking away from the table after pretty much Fury moved the goalpost every chance he got. And again, as I said, any fans defending Fury at this point, you know, I just can't comprehend what goes on in your head, because he's laughing at you, you know. And someone posted in the Element group that, was it Gareth A. Davis or Colin Hart? It was one or the other. Well, they were both being interviewed consistently by IFL, and you know, they're not going to speak out against Tyson Fury. They're Fury fans. You know, Colin Hart's been, you know, bosom buddies with Frank Warren for decades. And Gareth A. Davis, I mean, he is head of the Fury fan club. So the two of them are not going to speak out against him. And of course, they came out on IFL interviews and they were saying, oh, it's Usyk's fault, etc., which is laughable. It's absolutely laughable. And someone posted in the Element group, and he said that IFL have 700,000 subscribers, which they do, and they got something like 70,000 views. I think it was the Gareth A. Davis video, and it got 500 likes. So obviously, unless you download some software, you can't see the dislikes. I know Dell is able to see the dislikes, and I know Colin Hart's had a hell of a lot of dislikes, way more than likes. The dislike ratio was off the chart. But apparently, Gareth A. Davis's video had like 500 likes. Obviously, we can't see the dislikes. And they said, to put it in context, my video that I did where I was talking about True Geordie, an excellent video that he made, talking about the real reason why Fury ducked Usyk, and me giving a review of that, that got over 500 likes. Alright, now bear this in mind, right? I am a channel with 11,000 subscribers. That got 13,000 views. IFL have 700 plus thousand subscribers. It got 70,000 views. And I've got the same amount of likes as that. I think that just kind of sums it up, really. In terms of, and shout out to the True Geordie as well. He actually commented on the video that I did about him. Shout out to him for that. I appreciate that. And yeah, big up to the True Geordie every single time. That was a very good video he did on the whole Fury Usyk situation, and pretty much, you know, he's echoing what people like myself and Hatman have been saying. Anyone with any semblance of reason cannot look at this situation and say, oh, it's Usyk's fault, he's this, that, the other. It is clearly 100%, 110% Mr. Tyson Fury's fault. 110%. And just to read this here, Fury versus Joe Joyce is now reportedly the frontrunner for Fury's next fight this summer, providing Joe Joyce beats Zhilei Zhang. So there you go. No sooner has this fight ended, we've got Joe Joyce potentially as the next opponent for Tyson Fury. At the end of the day, I've said it once, I'll say it again. For either man, I will only accept, for either man, them fighting the other. Because they are... You cannot tell me that anyone else has a claim to be number one and number two other than Fury and Usyk. They don't. They're number one, they're number two. So how do we resolve it? How do we find out, okay, who wears the crown? You fight. Simple. But no. Clearly that is not the way it works. Clearly not. Clearly not. Now this is an interesting one. Eddie Hearn has released a Boxing Social interview, and he's actually said that Dimitri Bivol versus Heaney Mungia is being explored to potentially take place on June the 10th for Dimitri Bivol's WBA light heavyweight world title, Eddie Hearn has revealed. Now, Heaney Mungia, last I checked, he was a super middleweight after having one of the most uneventful, really poor runs at middleweight. I mean, this is a guy who moved up as a 154-pound champion, and he's done absolutely nothing at middleweight. Hasn't even fought for a title at middleweight, and now he's up at super middleweight. Could potentially go straight into a fight at light heavyweight for Dimitri Bivol, and that just shows how, that shows how crazy some of these guys must be cutting weight. Because he only moved up to middleweight 3 years ago, and he's already, now, I'm just hypothetically, it's what Eddie Hearn is saying, but if he does, if you could be up there at light heavyweight, that shows how much weight. Can you imagine how much weight he was cutting to get down to 154 pounds? It must have been crazy how much weight he was cutting. He also revealed that Mauricio Lara versus Lee Wood rematch is in talks for May the 27th. But if they can't agree on terms with Wood, then it will be Lara versus Warrington on that date instead. So Lara versus Wood is the front runner. Obviously, Lee Wood does have the rematch clause, which is true. So therefore, he gets first dib. And him versus Mauricio Lara too. It was an interesting fight. The first fight, Lee Wood was boxing out of his skin. That's the best I've seen Lee Wood. It was tremendous, and I said it in my post-fight review. Don't hook with a hooker. What did Lee Wood do? He hooked with a hooker. You can jab with a jabber, but you can't hook with a hooker. And that was his downfall. That was his mistake. In terms of the stoppage, again, you know, it's hard to say. Like, for me, I personally felt that it was correct to stop it because Lara is a finisher. Yes, I know there was only a couple of seconds left in the round, but at the end of the day, it was such a heavy knockdown. I can't help but feel Ben Davison did do the right thing. Having said that, going into a rematch, Wood is going to be very conscious of the fact that Lara has that one-punch power. He's going to know not to make a mistake. And I do believe Lee Wood rocked Lara a couple of times in that fight. So him against Lara too is a rematch I'll definitely be interested in watching. I can definitely see how Lee Wood can win that fight 100%. Lara versus Warrington 3. Now, I'm not going to lie, it doesn't really appeal to me as much as Lee Wood versus Lara 2, but I feel Lara deserves another crack at Josh Warrington because it left such a bad taste in my mouth, and it left a bad taste in everyone's mouth. I remember doing a live stream straight after Lara versus Warrington 2, and everyone was peeved off about it. And I feel as though Josh Warrington and Lara should run it back a third time as well. Is it as exciting a prospect as Lee Wood? No, because I give Lee Wood a greater chance of winning than I do Josh Warrington. At the end of the day, Josh Warrington got splattered all around the canvas in the first fight. The second fight, the writing was on the wall. We could all see what was going to happen. Everyone could see what was going to happen in that rematch. Josh Warrington was going to get splattered all against the canvas again. It was coming. It was coming. And then, I gave him the benefit of the doubt in that fight. But having seen how he's been fighting lately, reckless with his head, fouling incessantly, now I'm like, nah, you did that on purpose. You definitely... A once-off, bit reckless, yeah, I can turn the other cheek. Andre Ward was very reckless with his head. He definitely was. But Warrington now, Warrington against Luis Alberto Lopez, that fight shouldn't have been as competitive as it was. It was competitive because Warrington started fighting dirty late on in that fight and actually being able to get back into the fight purely through dirty tactics. And best believe, God only knows what he'd do in the third Lara fight if he got it. Jesus, you wouldn't know. But I feel as though Lara deserves that crack just to say, I'm the better. I beat you once. I should have beat you again, but I've got a draw on my record because of you and your flipping head. I'm going to beat you this time. So either one of them I take. Obviously, for me, I want to see the Lee Wood fight, the rematch, is one that's more appealing to me personally. I like the fight. I think it's a good fight. It's going to be interesting to see Lee Wood's approach going into it, how he approaches it this time. Because, he was doing so well in that first fight. So well. That might have been the best I've ever seen Lee Wood box. And to make one mistake, that's all it takes, I suppose. And then to go and take the L like that, you can see why he wants the rematch. So, let's see. I'm pretty sure there's not been much to talk about over the last couple of days. Oh yes, actually, I did see this actually. Kell Brook and Liam Smith ringside together for the fight between Okolie versus Light. Now, Kell Brook was interviewed by, was it Coogan who interviewed him? And he says that he's not heard a peep from Eddie Hearn about the Conor Benn fight. Now, Liam Smith, obviously, right, Eddie Hearn during the week, I think it was on Simon Jordan and Ting Show, can't remember the other guy's name. He was talking about the fact that Chris Eubank Jr. hasn't actually invoked the rematch clause or signed the rematch for Liam Smith yet. They're talking about June for him versus Conor Benn to actually get that fight over the line. Now, if that is the case, obviously Liam Smith, I believe, is mandatory for the WBO title at £160. But if you want a big money fight that you could probably still put on pay-per-view, probably. Kell Brook. Now, Kell Brook did during the week, or at least his nutritionist revealed that he's back in training camp eyeing a comeback. Liam Smith versus Kell Brook. For me, that's the only fight that really makes sense for Liam Smith, to be honest with you, other than Chris Eubank Jr. at this point, because the two of them know one another. They sparred in 2016. Actually, Kell Brook was the sparring partner for Liam Smith for the Canelo fight, and vice versa. Smith was Kell Brook's partner for the Golovkin fight. So, there's a bit of familiarity there. I will be picking Liam Smith every day of the week because Kell Brook is retired now, well over a year. He'd be fighting at probably £160, which would be more his natural weight. But he's not been living he's never lived the cleanest life, but he's not been living the cleanest life as of late, probably having a lot of the old how you doing and God knows what else. So I would imagine we're not going to see a Kell Brook anywhere near his best. Whereas Liam Smith, you could argue that's a career best win. It probably is his career best win over Chris Eubank Jr. in that fashion. He took hardly any abuse at all in that fight. So, Liam Smith versus Kell Brook. It makes sense for Sky to put that fight on, definitely. But I wouldn't be going in there expecting much from Kell Brook. Certainly not at this point. Anthony Joshua had his say on Tyson Fury. He is a people's champion. I'm a people's champion. There is no competition in that sense. The only competition I have with him is in the ring. He goes, I'll tell you what, if he's doing a 70-30 split for an undisputed world title fight to an already undisputed cruiserweight champion and unified heavyweight champion, imagine what he's going to try and offer me. It's just a nightmare. Yeah, and I go back to people saying that Joshua was the one who didn't want to fight Fury coming into December. For me, it was blatantly obvious early on that Fury was going to make it very difficult for Joshua to agree to that fight. Not to say he was fearful of Joshua or anything like that, but I said from the start it was going to be like Fury's going to make the negotiations deliberately difficult for Joshua, because they're going to want Joshua to walk away and say, nah, this is for me. So Fury can come out and say, well, you see, the bodybuilder doesn't want me, doesn't want to fight me. The bodybuilder doesn't want to fight me. And that's pretty much what it looked like for me from the outside. I know Hatman disagrees, but no, I think that Team Joshua did genuinely want that Fury fight. Because you lose it. Yeah, it's a third back-to-back L, but it's better to probably lose to someone like Fury for big money and try and make a comeback then and say, alright, well, I fought 1 and 2 in the division, I lost, but look, 1 and 2 in the division. It's better losing to those than it would be to go in there against the Filip Hrgovic and take an L against him. You know, because there's really no disrespect to Filip Hrgovic or Zili Zhang, but there's no real coming back from that. You know, so that was my thoughts on that. I think that's pretty much it. So, what time are we now? I'm going to try and get this up today. I will hopefully get some more in tomorrow. Hopefully on Tuesday. I must ask Jamie about this because I was going to do a live with Jamie on Wednesday, but I must text him actually because Wednesday actually doesn't work for me. So hopefully on Tuesday, me and Punch Perfect, Jamie, my good mate Jamie, hopefully me and him can do a live together. I've nothing really planned for tomorrow in terms of videos, but we'll wait and see because the news can change like that. In terms of everything else, wish you all the best for the week. I hope you all have a great week. I hope, as I always say, the phone rings with some good news for someone. And yeah, in terms of that, I'll leave you with that. Thanks as always to the Hit Company sponsor in this video. Smash the like button on the way out. Hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. I think this week is going to be a good week. I just have that feeling. I have that feeling that this week is going to be eventful. It's going to be an eventful week in a good way. In a good way. Watch the space. Watch the space. Peace.